Have you ever felt like you're saying too much, but being heard too little? Have you ever wondered, why do I always have to prove myself to the world? We live in a noisy world. Everyone is speaking. Everyone has an opinion. People rush to show off, argue, and make their voices heard, afraid of being forgotten. But what they don't realize is this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a higher form of strength. And when you combine silence with deep focus on yourself, you begin to transform. You begin to win. Focus on yourself. Stay silent. You win. Today, we'll explore 10 powerful principles to help you reclaim your focus, your inner stillness, and your quiet strength. Rooted in Stoic philosophy and deep spiritual wisdom. 1. Rediscover self-love in a world obsessed with romantic love. So the world is loud. And in all that noise, there's one message that's been repeated over and over again. You're not complete until you're loved by someone else. You hear it in music. You see it in movies. You feel it every time people ask, "Are you seeing anyone?" Like your worth depends on your relationship status. But what if that narrative is broken? What if the love you've been chasing outside of you was never meant to complete you, but only to reflect what's already there? Because here's the truth. You were never meant to find your worth in someone else's arms. You were meant to discover it in your own silence. Romantic love is beautiful. But when you make it your source of identity, you will bleed for validation. You will settle for less. You will compromise your values just to avoid being alone. And that's not love. That's self-abandonment. The Stoics taught that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Find the right person." He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Epictetus didn't write about finding the one. He wrote about becoming someone who could stand alone. Because real love doesn't rescue you. It meets you whole. So what is self-love, really? It's not ego. It's not arrogance. It's not saying, "I'm better than everyone." It's waking up and saying, "I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I don't need your approval to feel enough." It's setting boundaries not to push people away, but to protect your peace. It's saying no to what drains you, so you have room to say yes to what builds you. It's choosing to heal, even if no one applauds your process. And the most powerful part? When you finally start loving yourself fully, you stop settling for half-hearted love from others. You no longer beg for breadcrumbs of attention. You no longer lose sleep over someone ghosting you. You no longer chase people who are unsure about you, because you've already chosen you. How do you start? Sit with yourself. Not in loneliness, but in reflection. Write a list of what you once tolerated in others and why you won't anymore. Speak to yourself like someone you're committed to protecting. Pray. Meditate. Ground yourself not in the approval of people, but in the presence of God, who knew your worth before the world tried to measure it. Because once you realize that your Creator already approves of you, you stop craving permission from creation. You don't need a partner to be complete. You don't need a relationship to be valid. You don't need a soulmate to feel worthy. You are already loved. You are already chosen. You are already enough. Not because the world says so, but because the voice within has spoken louder than the voices around. So love yourself deeply. Respect yourself fiercely. And let the world catch up to the man you're becoming. 2. Find peace in solitude and time. So now, you've begun choosing yourself. You've stopped begging for love. You've started building it from the inside. But when the world quiets down, when the notifications stop, when the people leave, you're left with something that terrifies most. Silence. stillness, solitude. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you don't know what to do with it. But here's what the Stoics knew, what the world has forgotten. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's clarity. It's where the soul goes to breathe. In a world addicted to noise, choosing to be alone feels like rebellion. Because if you're not online, not responding, not available, then who are you? Let me tell you. You are someone who's no longer willing to be a slave to distractions. You are someone who's brave enough to look inward, to ask deeper questions, to listen not to the world, but to your own voice, and maybe to God's. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And solitude strips away the imagination. It forces you to stop running from your thoughts and start reclaiming authority over them. Because in stillness, you begin to see what truly matters, what no longer serves you, what your heart has been whispering, but you were too busy to hear. So how do you find peace in solitude? Create time to disconnect, not out of avoidance, but intention. Walk without a destination. Let your mind wander until it rests. Spend time with God in silence, not always asking, but simply being. Reflect on your life, not as a critic, but as a creator. Because in those quiet moments, you'll begin to hear the real you. Not the version the world expects, but the one you buried beneath deadlines, likes, and validation. Time is not just passing. It's asking you, are you using me well? Every minute spent chasing approval is a minute lost in building purpose. Every hour spent pleasing others is an hour stolen from your own soul. And when you realize time is your most sacred currency, you stop spending it on people who don't honor it. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Seneca. Let that sink in. You don't need more hours in the day. You need more alignment in how you live them. So embrace solitude not as loneliness, but as a sacred classroom. A place where your mind grows quiet, your spirit strengthens, and your path becomes clear. You don't have to fear the silence, because it's in the silence that you finally remember who you are. 3. The power of silence in a noisy world. You've stepped into solitude. You've started reclaiming your time. You've made room for stillness. But now comes the next challenge. Can you stay silent while the world screams? We live in an age where everyone has a platform. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone's trying to prove, explain, defend, argue, and be heard. Louder. Faster. More often. But the man who speaks less? He's often seen as cold, or detached, or out of place. And yet, the man who stays silent, with intention, is often the one who's already won. Because silence is not weakness. Silence is a declaration of power. It means you don't need the last word to stand firm. It means you don't need to prove yourself to people who can't even hear truth. It means you're no longer controlled by impulse. You've trained your mind to sit still. The Stoics weren't just masters of reason. They were masters of restraint. They understood that true strength isn't revealed in how loud you are, but in how little you need to speak. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Not clapbacks. Not public shaming. Not defending your worth to those who can't see it. Just silence, self-control, and forward movement. So why is silence powerful? Because it protects your energy. Because it keeps you from reacting emotionally to things beneath your mission. Because it creates mystery, depth, gravity. Because it allows you to listen to God, to your inner voice, to what's truly important. In a world full of noise, the one who can stay quiet becomes unforgettable. Silence doesn't mean passive. It means intentional. It doesn't mean you're afraid. It means you've already won the battle within. You no longer speak to gain approval. You no longer explain your worth to the unqualified. You no longer let every opinion penetrate your peace. You move in silence. You build in silence. You grow in silence. And when the time comes, you let your actions speak. He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words. Elbert Hubbard. You don't need to announce your greatness. You just need to become it. And trust me, the world always notices a man who doesn't need to be noticed. So let them talk. Let them argue. Let them post. Let them gossip. You stay grounded. Stay focused. Stay silent. Because that's how you stay free. 4. Don't seek approval from others. So you've chosen silence. You've stopped explaining yourself. You've learned to stay calm, grounded, and focused, even when the world gets loud. But there's one more chain you have to break. One that's subtle, invisible, but keeps millions of men stuck in lives that aren't truly theirs. The need to be approved by others. It sounds harmless. Wanting to be liked. Wanting to be understood. Wanting to hear someone say, "You did well." But when your soul depends on the approval of people, you will spend your entire life chasing a nod that may never come. You'll shrink yourself to fit their comfort. You'll silence your convictions to avoid their judgment. You'll trade purpose for popularity, truth for applause. And the worst part? Even when you do everything right, they still might not accept you. Because people's approval is not based on your authenticity. It's based on their own fears, biases, and expectations. Here's the truth the Stoics knew. You don't need the world's permission to live with integrity. You already have divine approval. When you know who you are in the eyes of God, you stop trying to impress the eyes of men. When you live by eternal standards, you stop bending to temporary opinions. Marcus Aurelius said, "It never ceases to amaze me, we all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinions than our own." That contradiction? It destroys men from the inside. But not you. Not anymore. Because you're learning to look inward for validation, not outward. So how do you stop seeking approval? Get clear on your values. Live by them. Loud opinions don't move a grounded man. Remind yourself, approval is addictive, but truth is freeing. Ask daily, am I doing what's right or what's popular? Surround yourself with people who challenge you, not people who flatter you. And above all, seek alignment with God, not applause from people. Because the man who knows he's walking in truth doesn't need an audience to keep moving forward. Let people misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them doubt. You weren't built for their approval. You were built for your assignment. You don't need to be liked. You need to be true. You need to be anchored. You need to be unshakably you. So stop begging for seats at tables God never asked you to sit at. Stop trading your identity for acceptance. And start walking in freedom. Quiet. Focused. Unapologetically aligned. That's when you win. 5. Build strength through self-mastery. So now, you've let go of the need to be liked. You've stopped chasing approval. You're no longer bending just to fit in. But now comes the real work. Because once the noise fades, once you're finally free from the opinions of others, you're left with one question. Can you lead yourself? Can you wake up when no one is watching? Can you say no to temptation without applause? Can you choose growth, pain, and discipline without external reward? Because that's what true strength is. Not just lifting weight. Not just enduring storms. But choosing self-mastery when nobody's forcing you. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They weren't impressed by charisma. They weren't moved by wealth or fame. They respected the man who could govern his own impulses, the man who could remain calm in chaos, focused in distraction, and grounded when emotions run high. That man, he doesn't need control over the world, because he's mastered the most dangerous territory of all, his own soul. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And isn't that what we all want? Not just freedom from control, but freedom from addiction, reaction, self-sabotage. To be the man who doesn't need rules, because he's already ruled by his values. To be the man who doesn't need motivation, because his discipline is the engine. To be the man who doesn't crumble under pressure, because pressure is where he trains. So how do you build this kind of strength? Start with your morning. Win the first hour before the world has a chance to distract you. Practice delay. Deny short-term gratification for long-term peace. Track your habits, not your feelings. Discipline thrives when emotion steps aside. Learn to do hard things without complaining. And above all, stay connected to God, not for escape, but for direction. Because true strength is not the absence of weakness. It's the refusal to be ruled by it. When you master yourself, you no longer need to manipulate your environment. You don't need to force control on others. You don't need the perfect conditions to thrive. You bring order to every room you walk into, because you've brought order to your soul. It is not that things are hard that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are hard. Seneca. But now, you dare. You commit. You lead yourself. Because you're done waiting for life to shape you. You're shaping yourself every day, every choice, every breath. 6. Learn to say no with confidence and self-respect. So now you've begun to master yourself. You've taken control of your mornings, your habits, your emotions. You've stopped reacting and started leading. But here's the next test of real self-respect. Can you say no when it matters most? Even when it's uncomfortable? Even when it disappoints people? Because let's be honest, it's easy to go with the flow. To say yes to avoid conflict. To stay quiet so no one gets upset. To please others at the cost of your peace. But every time you say yes to something that violates your values, you are saying no to yourself. You don't need to yell. You don't need to be rude. You don't even need to justify it. You just need to be clear, grounded, unshakable. Because a man who cannot say no will be ruled by the agendas of everyone else. The Stoics didn't care about popularity. They cared about principle. Marcus Aurelius didn't write, "Make sure everyone agrees with you." He wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's clarity. That's integrity. That's what it looks like when your yes means something, because your no is backed by courage. So why is it so hard? Because we were trained to equate kindness with compliance. Because we mistake approval for connection. Because we've been taught that saying no makes us cold, selfish, or difficult. But here's the truth. Saying no isn't rejection. It's protection. It's how you defend your time, your energy, your values, your mission. It's how you tell the world, I am not available for things that pull me out of alignment. How do you practice this kind of self-respect? Pause before you respond. Don't react, reflect. Say no without apology. You're not guilty for honoring your values. Set boundaries that serve your peace, not your guilt. Don't explain to people who aren't entitled to your process. Remember, if they get angry at your boundaries, they benefited from your lack of them. You want to grow? Then you'll have to disappoint some people. You'll have to exit circles you once fought to belong to. You'll have to protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Let them call you distant. Let them misunderstand your silence. Let them say you've changed. You have. Because men of virtue don't say yes to everything. They say yes to the right things. So speak clearly. Stand firmly. Say no with confidence and calm. Not to push others away, but to keep yourself centered. Because self-respect isn't loud. It's consistent. 7. Don't let distractions derail you. You've drawn your boundaries. You've learned to say no. You've protected your time, your energy, your values. But now comes the more subtle enemy. The one that doesn't knock on your door. It sneaks in quietly. Slowly. Unnoticed. Distraction. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It says, "Just check your phone real quick. You deserve a break, scroll a little. You'll get to that goal later." And before you know it, you've traded purpose for entertainment, progress for stimulation, your mission for meaningless motion. Here's what the Stoics understood. You don't need to be destroyed to be defeated. You just need to be distracted. Seneca warned us long ago. People are frugal in guarding their personal property. But as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful. Your distractions might not look dangerous. They might look like harmless habits. A few extra minutes online. A show you didn't need to binge. An argument you didn't need to enter. A thought spiral you didn't need to feed. But they all carry the same price tag. Focus. Why do distractions work? Because they offer what's easy. And your goals demand what's hard. Because they give you dopamine now, while discipline gives you rewards later. Because they feel urgent, even though they're meaningless. And if you're not ruthless about guarding your attention, you'll slowly drift off course. One scroll, one click, one drama at a time. So how do you reclaim control? Audit your inputs. If it doesn't align with your values, cut it. Silence notifications. Your purpose deserves your undivided attention. Limit low-quality conversations. Small minds love small talk. Declutter your digital life. Clean feeds, clean focus. Choose your battles. Most things don't need your reaction, only your redirection. And most importantly, be where your feet are. Because when you're present, distraction loses its grip. Distraction is the devil's decoy. It doesn't need to destroy your life. It just needs to delay your purpose. To keep you busy but empty. To keep you scrolling but stagnant. But not you. Not anymore. Because now you see it. You feel it. And you're choosing different. You want to win? Then simplify. Focus. Delete what doesn't matter. Not because you're uptight, but because you're aligned. You've got limited time, limited energy, and a calling too big to waste it chasing noise. Guard your focus like your future depends on it. Because it does. 8. Discipline is what protects you from distraction. You've seen it clearly now. Distraction isn't harmless. It's not innocent. It's strategic. And if you don't have a system to fight back, you won't just drift off track. You'll wake up one day miles away from the life you meant to build. So what's the shield? Discipline. Not hype. Not motivation. Not mood. Just plain, quiet, powerful discipline. The Stoics weren't emotional men. They didn't wait to feel like it. They trained their minds to do what was right. Especially when it was hard. Because they understood something most people today don't. Your future doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most disciplined. Marcus Aurelius woke up every day as the Emperor of Rome. He could have done whatever he wanted. But instead, he wrote this. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. That's the mindset. No entitlement. No excuses. Just discipline. Discipline isn't punishment. It's protection. It guards your focus. It protects your peace. It preserves your energy for things that actually move you forward. Because when the feelings fade, when the excitement dies, when no one's cheering you on, discipline is what keeps you showing up. What does this look like in real life? Waking up when you said you would, without negotiating with yourself. Training your body even when you're tired. Saying no to temptation, not because it's wrong, but because it's not aligned. Doing deep work without checking your phone every 10 minutes. Spending time in silence, scripture, or prayer instead of aimless scrolling. Choosing consistency over intensity. Because that's the game. Tiny wins, stacked daily. No drama. No excuses. Just effort, repeated. The devil doesn't need to knock you down. He just needs to get you out of rhythm. Out of routine. Off your discipline. But the man who protects his patterns protects his destiny. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. Read that again. Then live it. Because you'll never become what you won't practice. So, no more waiting for motivation. No more reacting to how you feel. No more looking for external pushes. From now on, let your discipline lead you. Because one day, when others fall apart, you'll still be standing. Not because it was easy, but because you trained for it. 9. Consistency beats motivation. So now, you've built your shield. You've embraced discipline. You've stopped letting feelings decide your future. But here's the next truth you have to swallow. Discipline starts the journey, but consistency finishes it. Motivation is exciting. It makes you feel alive. It gets you to buy the journal, join the gym, start the project. But motivation has a short lifespan. It's fleeting. It comes and goes with the weather, the mood, the numbers on the scale. Consistency? It's not sexy. It's not loud. It doesn't ask for applause. But it's the real engine behind every breakthrough you've ever seen. The Stoics never waited for a good day to act. They didn't wait to feel inspired to train their minds. They built systems. They followed structure. They repeated the process until it became who they were. You become what you repeatedly do. Aristotle. So ask yourself, what are you repeating? Are you repeating excuses? Or effort? Complaints? Or commitment? Because consistency is what separates potential from power. You don't need to go all out. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep showing up. When you're tired. When it's inconvenient. When no one's watching. When it feels pointless. Because the man who moves forward 1% every day will outrun the man who waits for perfect conditions to take giant leaps. What does consistency actually look like? Waking up early 6-7 days, even if one was rough. Praying or journaling every morning, even if it's just 5 minutes. Keeping your commitments, even when you're only at 60%. Training when you don't feel strong, because showing up is strength. Speaking with integrity, even when you're frustrated or unheard. Your habits build your future, not your hopes. You don't need to feel on fire. You just need to keep the flame alive. Even when it flickers. Even when it dims. You keep tending it. Because one day, that small steady flame will become the fire that carries you through every storm. Success is not a product of moments. It's a product of patterns. So don't chase the high. Chase the reps. Chase the rhythm. Chase the quiet wins that no one claps for. But that build everything you'll ever be proud of. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. So stop chasing the spark and start building the structure. You look back one day, not in awe of a single big moment, but in respect for the man who never quit. 10. Real change comes from repeated habits. So now you understand. You don't need constant motivation. You don't need fireworks or big moments. You just need consistency, day after day, hour by hour, moment by moment. But even more than that, you need to realize one final truth. Real change, deep, lasting, undeniable change, doesn't come from what you do once. It comes from what you do over and over again. The man who gets up at 5 a.m. one time, he's excited. The man who gets up at 5 a.m. for 90 days straight, he's transformed. The man who trains hard once a week when he's inspired, he's emotional. The man who trains daily even when he's tired, he's dangerous. The Stoics never talked about big, flashy change. They talked about virtue, about formation, about daily practices that shape the man from the inside out. They knew, you are not the sum of your intentions. You are the sum of your habits. You want to be more focused? Then practice silence daily. You want to be more grounded? Then journal daily. You want to be more disciplined? Then train your body and your mind daily. You want peace? Then choose presence over and over and over again. Because the man who becomes unshakable is simply the man who repeats what matters. So how do you build real change? Start small. Tiny actions done daily beat big plans done rarely. Track your effort, not just your outcome. Forgive yourself fast, but never negotiate your standard. Embrace boredom. Mastery is boring, but it works. Celebrate the invisible progress no one sees, because you know it's real. This is how legacies are built. Not in one great day, but in 1,000 ordinary ones. Stacked. Aligned. Sacred. First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be. Then do what you have to do. Epictetus. So tell yourself now. Who are you becoming? And then prove it. Not with one loud decision, but with one quiet habit. Repeat it until you are no longer pretending. You have become. Your life doesn't change when you speak it. It changes when you live it. So go. One action at a time. One habit at a time. One day at a time. That's how you rise. That's how you evolve. That's how you win. You made it to the end. Not everyone does. But you did, because deep down, you know it's time. Time to stop explaining yourself. Time to stop chasing validation. Time to stop living distracted, divided, disconnected. And start doing what only the strongest men are willing to do. Focus on yourself. Stay silent. Build in secret. And rise in strength. This isn't about becoming loud. It's about becoming clear. Clear on your values. Clear on your mission. Clear on the man you're here to become. So now it's your turn. Drop a comment below. Which principle from this video hit you the hardest, and which one will you start applying today? And if you're committed to mastering your mind, guarding your focus, and living with virtue, hit like and tap subscribe. This channel is for men like you. Not those chasing attention, but those chasing alignment. You don't need to move fast. You just need to move forward. With intention. With discipline. And with silence. We're just getting started.